LSC Academic Committee meeting is being held in accordance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. The news media has been notified and a copy of the agenda has been made available to the public. Dr. Ivy, will you please confirm the record of attendance?
Happy to do so, Madam Chairwoman. You yourself, Chair of the Academic Committee, Jenny Knopf, is physically present. Vice Chairwoman of the Board, Candy Chandler, physically present. Secretary to the Board, Lachey Davis, is joining virtually. Director Shafara Douglas is also joining virtually. We also have present in the board meeting room ex officio community representative, Dr. Glenn Huggins. Staff who also is present for the record is Dr. Michelle McDonald, Coordinator of Talent Development, and we also have Ms. Nikki Pack, our Coordinator of Special Populations, and Laura McAllister, our Scholar Prevention Specialist, as well as Ms. Amy Hanson, Liaison to the Board. We have a quorum of the committee present.
Thank you all for being here this afternoon and your continued dedication to our Scholar staff and mission. At this time, I'll officially call the meeting to order. At this time, I also have the invocation. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to gather together to focus on the most important thing, and that's the scholars. In your name we pray, amen. All right, please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, the vision statements. Liberty Student Charter works to provide all students with equal access to a world-class K-12 education in an academically rigorous and student-centered learning environment, creating graduates who will be thoughtful and engaged citizens prepared to take on the leadership challenges of the 21st century. The vision statement, in partnership with our families and community, our vision is to provide real-world, interdisciplinary, personalized, and project-based learning experiences through a STEAM-based academic program where graduates become the next generation of leaders, employers, and employees who contribute to the economic well-being of their communities and families. If there are no objections to the approval of the consent agenda, the minutes from the previous meeting and today's meeting stand approved. Dr. Ivy, please proceed with any today's discussion in advance of the scheduled agenda items.
Happy to do so. All right, we have as outlined for you on the agenda for today our regular flow of information sharing, as you see, but we also have, to kick us off, Dr. McDonald, our Coordinator of Talent Development, who is going to be giving the floor to our Special Populations team. Every leader has an assigned board committee that is presenting their looking back, looking forward presentation to the close out the school year, and Special Populations is under an academic committee. Once we have that presentation completed, we will go into some updates that have been shared with all committees, including our organizational year-end numbers, updates regarding PATH, and then some items that are being recommended to the full board for approval at Monday's meeting. All right, so to kick us off, Dr. McDonald is ready to give the floor, I believe, to our Special Populations team, and they're going to spend just some time with you to showcase with you all things Special Pops for this year.
All right, so thank you for having us. Super excited to kind of talk about some of the data that we're seeing from the full inclusion model that we did this year, which is, having a self-contained having a special education teacher and a general education teacher teaching in the classroom at the same time. Those classrooms, consisted of scholars that are core replacement scholars in math and reading that are like 1 to 2 years, sometimes 3 years, behind grade level. So just giving them access to that general education curriculum, as well as giving them access to the specialists in the classroom to be able to receive their services as well. So the first screen up here is just the looking back part 1 is our slide 2. Is our inclusion classroom data, our self-contained data, which is we have a self-contained classroom at our primary campus and one at our elementary campus, so kind of combine the data for those two. And then is our intervention at the primary campus. So really proud of our phenomenal phantoms right there in kindergarten. Their proficiency percentages, of course, 71 for reading, 71 for math. Also, across the board, their CSI growth targets were met, 80% for both reading and math. And the percentage of growth targets met, 74% for reading, 83% for math. A little bit lower in first grade, 52 for reading met proficiency, math was 64%. Our CSI percentages were pretty low there. Percentage of growth targets met was reading 54%, math 68%. So definitely want to next year really hone into the small group instruction there, which is across the board in the PA, something that we're all focusing on. And then self-contained classroom, at both campuses. So one scholar at the PA actually scored proficient in reading and math on that. And so that little fella is moving out of self-contained and he's going into a regular classroom, which is really great. 56% of the EA scholars met their growth targets on that, which is great, out of that self-contained classroom. As far as benchmarks on unique, for reading and math, 85% met their benchmarks on unique curriculum and reading, and 82% in math. And then 56% of EA scholars met their math growth targets out of the self-contained classroom, which is really great. And then 85% of those scholars, of course, met their SEL competencies. And then intervention, you can see our proficiency percentages there, and also the percentage of CSI scholars that met their growth targets, and then percentage of growth targets met there too as well. And then here's our data for second through fifth, as well as intervention. Really want to point out fourth grade especially, 88% met their growth target in math. And there's 9 core scholars in that classroom. So that's a good bit of scholars out in that classroom. Fifth grade, if you look at reading, and actually go back and look at reading percentage of CSI scholars meeting growth targets as well, which those special ed scholars are part of those CSI scholars as well. Just so you have that data. And then, so 91 in reading met their CSI scholars met their growth targets, and 58 in math. And then you can see the percentage, 84 in reading met their growth target, and then 64 in math there too. Intervention always, of course, is a bright spot. Always looks really great. So this slide is just growth targets met in math, and this is special education students only. This is the 132 scholars that we have. So you can see here the percentage of those that are closing that gap. Definitely a bright spot in math again for fifth grade. Second grade, second grade we struggled a little bit. There was a lot of just kind of disconnect with the teachers there. We made changes for next year, and so I think that will change a little bit there as well too. And then of course the speech, those are her speech only scholars that met their growth targets in reading, but her other, of course, their speech scholars mixed in with the other population of scholars. And then here's our intervention data too here. Those are the scholars that met their growth targets in reading and math across the grade levels, and then of course our gifted and talented who met their reading growth targets. That's the academic and enrichment and the GT scholars combined for reading and math. Any questions on those? I mean, you say questions for me again? All right. Our org health. So these are the differences between December and May. Overall satisfaction was at 94%, which is up from our 90%. Our intent to return is lower. We're losing our PT, which is super sad for us. I know that's our last position that we're looking for as well too. And then we did go on the next slide, Amy. You can just see our highest scoring indicators with overall satisfaction, relationships, and teamwork. I will say special populations are all very close. We all work very hard. We're all very driven because we know that we have a lot of work to do. And our individual purpose is also 99%. I mean, you get into this profession because this is something that you want to do. Our 3 lowest scoring indicators was belonging. I think some of that, but it is up 6%. We did make some changes after the December, just kind of making, sometimes there's a separation between gen ed and sped, and so just kind of make sure that, everybody has access to the same things. you have access to Power School, then you have access to Power School, just kind of making sure all that's connecting. The basic needs down 1%. I mean, I don't know if that's, I don't know. So 89% there. I know, we're talking about different math curriculums and things like that, so we're working to get different things for them too as well. And then growth and advancement was 76%, up 4% from last time. So getting our special education teachers involved in CLI and all these kind of things too as well. So, and great team leads. So it's just been great. So I'm incredibly proud of the full inclusion initiative this year. Our scholars are able to access our general curriculum. You would not, if you walk into those classrooms, you wouldn't know who was special ed and who wasn't. I think, it fosters collaboration among staff, and so there's always opportunities to refine. We saw things that we need to fix. We have a PD on the 15th, which is we're bringing all those general education teachers and the special education teachers back in again. Kind of really talk about, you might have used this model all year last year and it didn't do as well, so let's look at a different kind of model. Just really working on, you've got to really, these are our kids and your kids and my kids. Some classrooms did that really well and some did not, and so the ones that didn't, we kind of changed. So going forward. And then I just think that, as far as, my thoughts on inclusion is we have to give them a chance to hear that general education curriculum are being tested on those same things, with our SE Ready, so they've got that opportunity to hear it and to experience it. Again, looking back, our campus-wide initiatives, inclusion, so, and also progress monitoring. Oops, sorry. Progress monitoring we started this year as well, so school-wide did it starting in August, and then we switched over to the CFAs, but our special education teachers and our intervention teachers continue to do that because we need to know where the kids are. So, when it started in August, the general education classroom teachers were doing on grade level. We were always doing on instructional level, just to kind of show where if we're closing that gap or not. So we continue to do that, and we will do that again next year as well. So that kind of drives our instruction too, like where our intervention teachers need to focus and things like that. So, and I think with the data it shows that having that information, it really helps. Some 3 things that I'm most proud of. We had the national recognition of the Unified Champion School. We were able to go to the State House this year too as well, which was really great. We at the elementary campus, we combined with our I'm trying to think of the help me out here. Is the coach, who was the group that we combined with that was the EA partners? Beta Club, sorry. I could not think of it. So we worked with the Beta Club as well, so those were our partners for the EA, which was really great. And then, of course, inclusion, I think, worked really well this year. And then our Super Sprouts growth and intervention growth, and I'll kind of go into that a little bit more on the next slide. 2 most important lessons that I've learned is the importance of proactive communication, like making sure that everybody knows what's going on. You're not throwing something at somebody in the last minute. And then power of building leadership capacity in others. We are growing a lot. So even next year we've got a good bit of kindergarten scholars that are coming into their special education. So as we continue to grow, we can't just a few of us do it all on our own. So building capacity in others too as well.
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. So bright spots, just again, those phenomenal phantoms, they had the highest reading proficiency, and over 80% of their CSI scholars made growth in reading and math. In Iceland, well, it's our 4th grade class, almost 70% of scholars met proficiency in math. I think it was like 68, 67, and 88% of scholars met their growth targets in math, and there was, like I said, 9 core replacement scholars in their classroom. In Peru, which is our 5th grade class, 84% of scholars met their reading growth targets, and 91% of CSI scholars in reading met their growth targets, and again, those special ed scholars are included in those CSI scholars as well. Our Super Sprout breakdown, Ms. Jeffcoat came on board this year to go over that class, and she is amazing. She did a lot as far as social, building them, growing them social and emotionally. So at the beginning of the year, for her unique benchmarks in math, the class average was 23%, and they ended at 83% on their unique benchmarks. And then for reading, the class average at the beginning of the year was 35%, and they ended at 90%. So it was really great. If you ever have a chance to go in there, just grade. New members joining our team, so we have Miss Emily Burns that's coming over to be our 6th grade academic interventionist for next year. We have Miss Sheila Pack who's coming in to do our 3rd grade inclusion. Miss Gianna Plough, who's going to be our 4th grade inclusion. Miss Caroline Rogers, who's going to be our self-contained teacher at the elementary campus. Miss McKnight is shifting into our 6th grade inclusion. And then Stacey Mooneyham is coming on as our special populations instructional support specialist, so doing a lot of coaching with me as well. And then she will also have us a group of scholars that, because our resource scholars, our load is really heavy. And so Ms. Ward will be transitioning into academic intervention as well, so she'll have a small group of special ed scholars as well as intervention scholars as well. So that will take, so this year our inclusion teachers had 2 groups of resource, which, you know, kind of get a little heavy, so now they just have 1. Which is what Ms. Ward had last year, which is 4th grade. I think that will help, you know, Ms. Ward said it's very doable with just the 1, so. All right, looking forward, so 3 priority goals is just increasing that instructional rigor and alignment and inclusion, accountability and compliance, and then building capacity in others. And I just kind of elaborate on those a little bit. So as far as strengthen and refine the inclusion model, so, you know, continuing to build on the success of the co-teaching model, working on strengthening instructional practices within those classrooms. Again, we're doing that PD again this year. And just really talking about, I think we've got, you know, especially for the classes that are continuing to do it together again, just that planning piece is what we really need to focus on too as well. Like making sure that they're planning ahead of time. They're, you know, what are the modifications we're going to make for this lesson? What is the, you know, their accommodations we're going to make for this lesson? And just making sure that small group instruction is differentiated. It's not the same thing and you're just passing, you know, scholarship, which is across the board something I think we're all focusing on. And again, some data-driven decision-making and progress monitoring, you know, working with Ms. McAllister, who is, you know, progress monitoring is her thing, but also working with her to make sure that we're meeting and talking about that data. And also, you know, making sure that we meet and talk about the data that general education teachers are doing as well. So our intervention teachers need to know what their scholars are struggling with on that as well. But we will continue progress monitoring to on instructional levels, just to make sure we're, you know, closing the gap. And then building staff capacity and shared ownership of scholar outcomes. So focus on developing the capacity of special education teachers, interventionists, and general education teachers to be able to support those diverse learners. I know in some of the feedback that we got, like just how to accommodate those scholars, you know, that are on IEPs or maybe your resource kids. How do we modify this and just kind of really making sure that they know how to do that and that they don't feel like, you know, that they're lost or they don't know what to do. And so special populations is part of the PD on the 13th and the 14th as well to kind of teach those teachers like this is what some, you know, what accommodations look like. This is how you can modify this, just to kind of, you know, give them support for that as well. And I think the new support component for culture is going to help too. You know, a lot of times some of our kids with special needs have behaviors that are a little different or difficult, and so I think having those new supports that, you know, because they deal with kids with special education where they are now too as well, so that'll be very helpful. All right, so what 3 things excite me about next year? Our new position, Ms. Mooneyham coming on board, additional culture support, like I was just saying, and then continuing to close the achievement gap in special populations. And then what teacher actions will support us in meeting like rigorous lesson planning and execution of accommodations and modifications, data-driven instruction and compliance and accountability. Just holding those accountable, you know, especially, you know, if this kid needs this accommodation, we gotta make sure we're doing it. We gotta make sure, you know, that we stay compliant for sure. Any questions? Some questions?
How often are y'all progress monitoring?
So we do that every week. So it's
Every
either, so reading 1 week, math another week.
Gotcha. And you have also benchmarks at the end of the unit?
So we do progress monitoring, which are just on fluency, like math, fact, fluency, and then so yeah, then we just make decisions based off of that. So if a kid say, you know, is making consistent progress on this level, we'll move them up another level. So then we track
But those
that.
students still take the CFA
Yes.
in their classroom,
Mhm.
so they still
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah, and we still get information on that as well.
Fine, thank you.
Ms. Jane on Ms. Fennell?
And one thing I do want to kind of mention too, I know kindergarten started out a little rough last year because we had, of course, our special education students, and then we had those general education students that probably did not need to be paired with those students. So this year, we were very intentional about when the scholars came, we had Ms. McAllister and Ms. Jeffco do observations of those scholars. We made notes, so we know what kind of scholars to put in those classes.
Mhm.
So that's going to be very beneficial
Well,
this year.
even with that, I mean, Kinder
Yeah,
did amazingly well
Yeah.
in meeting their grade targets.
they did. Yeah.
I'm just curious, comparing our inclusion class, data on meeting growth targets, is it in line with the other classrooms or pretty much consistent with the
Right.
percentage of non-inclusion classrooms meeting growth targets?
And I don't have that specific data up.
But you gave us an action step,
Yeah.
and that's a
Yeah.
great segue into, at last academic committee meeting, we have, two academic committee meetings ago, we, stopped, we put brakes on, considering
The classroom.
our classroom increase or decrease size, for inclusion to act on data. And so I did encourage Nikki, I'm glad I saw the slide at the very end. So the action step was, what's the impact on inclusion versus all our other classrooms? So 50% of our grade levels, when you look at the target that was set in the beginning of the year, 50% of them met it.
Mhm.
2 of them in both reading and math. The 5th grade class only met it in reading. And so you've got first, second, and third are the 3 that, to your point, is there an adverse impact on general ed students? And, you know, is that a generalized statement that you could just make outright? Or is there a proof point that says, no, there's not? Because there
We
is.
can
There's
certainly
3
gather
There's
that
3 grade
data.
levels that say that it is happening.
Yeah.
There's a positive impact.
Exactly,
Right, and I will say,
including Kinder.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I will say, in the classrooms that have that group, you know, that met that, the parity of the teachers was different than the parity of the teachers in the classes that didn't need it.
Yeah.
So we're real intentional for
Yeah.
next year.
It's critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So just so that academic committee is aligned on, because we're recommending approval of the org goals for next year, which will then, Dr. McDonald, this will be cascaded in the beginning of the year evaluation, goal setting, conferences, that sort of thing. For all of special populations team members who are inclusion based, it's not 85%, it's 60%. It's 60% proficiency. And so, you know, every year, and my hope is that one year very soon, that this will just become a norm and it's not something that is up for constant negotiation, if you will. When I say negotiation, is this fair? Is it, you know, is it equitable? Because I've got, okay, in one class, 9 core scholars, and I've got the other 20, other 16 or 17 are non-core scholars. And so you have a data point. There are 3 grade levels that said, yes, we did it when we went to 60%. And in one of them, they were in the 70s. They were in the 70s. And so is there do we take out the core scholars and do a separate goal just for core scholars? And I know Dr. McDonald, our talent development coordinator, her and I have had conversations on the side about, okay, from if you've got the special ed teacher that's in the classroom, they're in charge of delivering specialized instruction as the special education teacher. That's their role. That's why there's a second certified teacher in the classroom. What is a fair moving target? So there's only 2 ways to do this. Either we stick with 60%, which is what we did this year. We lowered it from 85 to 60 just for the inclusion classrooms. You asked Ms. Chandler, is it having an adverse impact? We got 3 grade levels that there's not any evidence of an adverse impact. The other option is that we take those core scholars out and there are 2 separate goals. So if I just so happen to have a class that I'm the inclusion teacher, because they've all agreed to be inclusion teachers for next year because they believe in the spirit of inclusion, and Liberty's philosophy is that we believe in the spirit of inclusion. But I don't know how many is going to be in my class. I may have 9, I may have 4. Kinder only has 2 right now. We know more are going to be identified. And so is it, because this is a decision Nikki needs to make in the next 3 weeks, so that when her team is coming back, she is speaking, because one of her goals is accountability, clarity, and getting ahead with proactive communication. Nope, this is where Dr. McDonald and her are locked in terms of network versus school level, in terms of this is the expectation for goal setting purposes. Either it's all inclusive, one population, or we have two separate targets. Because this, right, you know, your question you asked is something we spend hours.
And definitely growth targets need to stay the same across the board,
Right.
because we're all, that's how we're closing the
Yes,
gap,
growth,
is the growth.
yes.
You know, our scholars, may not hit the, you know, but we can close that gap with the growth targets.
I've never been one for lowering those expectations, because when you do, that's what happens.
Mhm.
But when you have high expectations, things occur.
Right.
And we lowered the 85 to 60 for the whole class
I
to
understand that.
account for that population of scholars in that. Dr. McDonald, anything you want to add? Because it's hard to believe, but in 6 weeks we'll be,
Talking about.
we'll be, here are your goals, and here is the, and
And I'm all for increasing, if we need to, maybe every, keeping.
I'm a proponent for either leaving the goal at 60% inclusive for the inclusion class or increasing it for the whole class, but I'm not a proponent for pulling the
Right,
inclusion
yeah,
core
no, I
students
wouldn't
out.
do that.
Because if we're saying we
Yeah.
are inclusion, then we have to pull
Right.
the
Yeah.
inclusion.
Then be inclusion.
I agree.
And our goal is for those students who are core students to eventually get to the point where they're
Right.
not.
Yeah.
So if we pull them out, we're saying that we don't expect you to be able to
Right.
reach that point.
Yeah.
That's where I was coming from. I didn't mean it as a negative.
Right,
I meant it
yes.
as-
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Thank you for saying that, Dr. McDonald. I agree wholeheartedly. I'm not a proponent of just pulling out
Yeah.
if we're referring to inclusion. And so we just have to continue being strategic in how we manage the inclusion process.
Make sure we've got the right people.
You guys hear me? Did you guys hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yep. Awesome. The only other question, and you shared it in your presentation, 3 months ago in your budget request, there was a request for the additional position that the organization's followed through on. Anything else you want to share on how you're going to leverage that special populations instructional support specialist,
Right, so
specifically for first or second
Yes.
or?
So definitely those classrooms that struggle a little bit more, so definitely more coaching in there. So between Ms. Mooney, him and I, one of us will coach, one evaluate, kind of just how they do with the other Janet, like Kelly and Katie and Emily kind of do the same. Just a lot of coaching, a lot of just making sure that small group differentiation is going on. So, yeah. Lots of accountability, that's where keep talking about accountability and that, so.
And Ms. Mooneyham is true CLI, 50% serving. She will have a resource caseload. Ms. Ward will have a resource caseload as well. So you got to know that going into 4th grade or 5th grade is Ms. Ward.
She's gonna stay with fourth, I think, or fourth, special ed scholars.
So I don't have the numbers
Yeah.
right away, but obviously 0 to 40th percentile, you're saying 15?
15 resource scholars for each.
For each, right, that's the maximum caseload.
Yeah.
But obviously, if we're giving up half day for resource, that means the other half that would be traditionally served with just regular intervention, those students that are in the 30th to 40th percentile, maybe right in the bubble that are being pulled, would not be. They'd have to be a bit more strategic in 4th grade specifically of who's being pulled.
And Ms. Ward will also probably start with the tier 3 kids for intervention that are not identified yet, but that could possibly be identified. So just like hers would kind of say the same.
And Nikki, this is Dr. Huggins, this is his wheelhouse.
So, okay.
This, I probably should have, this is his big, this
I'm
is
just listening.
MTSS,
Yeah.
this is his, he led the charge.
Right.
And so, there's no doubt about it that growth has been made.
I really want to, I keep saying we definitely want to dive into, have more support too, is like some way to show the social emotional growth with those scholars, because I know we do the SEL part, but there's so much more to that
Yeah.
than just,
Yeah,
and just
the
what that one
intangibles, yeah.
testament, you know?
Yeah.
So, just
Yeah.
acceptance of it, you know, like it's just.
So you have every tool in your tool belt to get to 60% in all 7 grade levels next year. All right. YouTube's got it. All right.
Thanks,
Hey,
Kate.
thank you for doing up your way.
Good presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think she had a tickle.
Ms. Pack was on the schedule to present at Monday night's board meeting, but Dr. McDonald is going to be taking her place because she has some very exciting news to share. And so Dr. McDonald is going to be having the main presentation at Monday night's board meeting. Thank you, Ms. Pack.
Thank you.
All right, we will move right along into the last few items on the executive director's report, and then we'll move into board discussion. We are 100% fully hired outside of our part-time physical therapist. And so we are still trying to find a physical therapist. If anybody has any lead on a physical therapist, even our contract agency, that our in-house contract, that our in-town contract agency does not have availability for PT. And so that gives us the only other last resort option would be to mega contract, another agency, which would be a bit more expensive. So we've had some that have expressed interest. The closest we have found is a PTA, which they have to be administered on someone's caseload. And so, and we only need this person for 20 hours. 20 hours. So next year, it's very likely that it'll need to be a full-time person. So getting a full-time person to come on would be a bit more of a selling point. Then can you give us 20 hours outside of your other PRN work?
This is 20 hours and it's for both campuses.
All 3 campuses. And they would be, this individual would really be able to craft their own schedule. We would make the schedule work. This is exactly how we did it in the current PT world. I can only work these 2 days, these time frames, and so we can make it work. But my wish is in the next 10 days that is done, and we're able to move forward. Everybody else that has been hired to join the red carpet is on track with all of their onboarding steps, and New Staff Academy starts on July the 16th. You'll be getting an invitation very soon on coming out for the traditional day that board comes out to share their MyWhy. All right. For promotion and retention, I can share with you the final numbers. This is hot off the press. We are in the middle of Summer Pride, and I'm not sure if Ms. Hanson is able to bring up the YouTube video from Summer Create Awesome. I'm going to let her play this real quick. This is Create, and then we'll go into Summer Pride. So this is
This is where it all begins, 'cause this could be the best day of our lives, yeah. This is where it all begins. Burning like a light show, free yourself and let go, time to see it all. Don't think about tomorrow, today we are heroes, here adventure calls. There are whole new worlds to see, I keep running,
at the same time that Summer School is happening.
and my feet keep lifting me, like I'm flying.
And they just recently did their showcase this past Saturday. So this is now taking us into the actual showcase. 150 parents came. That's 150. Jane is watching. Big shout out to Jane Ray, our gifted and talented coordinator, who not only leads the GT program but actually teaches 35 of those 54 identified children, and then also the scholars at the K-1-2 level that have not been identified. And so this is a part of our charter app that says we will do every summer, because the goal is to build an award-winning performance arts department. And so so it's very exciting to see that we're going to be offering this to every sixth grader who wants to pursue it. You're going to be offering choir, you're going to be offering drama, you're going to be offering band, you're going to be offering orchestra. And so this all is a big piece of the Create Showcase that James started several years ago, and it's still happening.
It's neat because, I mean, these kids were only there for a week.
Right.
2.5 hours a day, so like, I mean, they were able to put this together by the end of the week.
Very quickly, yes. So I believe there were 4 total performance arts areas, it might have been 5. Piano, art, choir, drama.
Dr. Ivy,
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment when the video's done.
It's a long piano clip, and I think this is the whole piano clip because the other piece is live and you have to go watch it on Facebook. But 150 parents, right? This is what's going to keep Liberty's persistence rate at 96%. They're not going to want to leave because they have access to their pathway at Liberty, right? And so what I love is that we're offering all the different pathways and we're figuring out a way to make it work without being the gold standard of everything. And so, because if we don't offer an outlet and we narrow ourselves into one, we're going to be set up just by design where they're going to exit in 5th grade and go to a middle school or high school that naturally already offers all of this. That's it for the video. I won't bore you with the rest. Ms. Davis, we'll give the floor to you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My visit, Dr. Ivy asked me to go and take a visit to Summer Pride as well as Create, and I was absolutely floored with Create. We'll talk about Summer Pride.
Ranger offers over 1 million high-quality products, from motors and belts to
she put together a well-organized machine. I was really excited about the kids. I mean, I stayed and hung out with the dancers and artists. I mean, I stayed and hung out with them quite a while. But they were so excited about being there. I was able to ask some of the classes, what would you want if you had anything to change? What would you want? Every last one of them was like, can we have it longer than a week? I mean, I'm not sure if you guys understand. They learned all of this in basically kind of 5 days. This was just a few days, and they were so excited about being there. I was really thrilled with it. And I think the only thing that I would want to promote or suggest or to help with the program is maybe resources of some sort to help with, because for example, the dancers, she provided the shoes for a lot of the dancers because 90% of the girls did not have shoes, dance shoes, and so she provided the shoes for them. And I would like to figure out some way that we can supplement that, just to kind of help out. But the schedule, and then another thing was there were some that wanted 2 choices of arts, but they had to choose one or the other. So not sure how we can adjust that in the future as well. It would probably, but there were some children that wanted more than one activity, and they actually had to do one or the other. So yeah, I mean, I was really, really pleased with it. Saddened that I had a previous engagement and was not going to be able to go to the showcase on Saturday. But I was really excited about it. So job well done to Ms. Ray and anybody else that contributed to the creation of it.
Thank you, Ms. Davis, for making time to go. This is just a small part of our summer budget, and so where you spend $1 makes a value statement, and while we certainly could spend a lot more, we could increase that size of 80 to 150, and over time I know it will, to give them more funds. But It's a good starting point. A good starting point as to where we landed for year 3 create. With regards to Summer Pride, which is our Pathways to Respect, Innovation, Discipline, and Excellence, that's our name for summer school, we have 3 children in 3rd grade who will not, that's under Southbound Read to Succeed. They will, there's 3 total that will be subject to that retention. So that's 3 out of, I believe the number is 15. 15 is our lowest number out of just a few years of doing this. But I need you to hear the big push this year for me was to beef up Summer Pride, because this has been an area that is, there's a lot that happens in the month of June, and how do we make it really intentional? And it's not just a, come and let's do this and this for 5 or 6 hours. And so the biggest wins this year were we got to 120 children. We got to 20 students on every grade level. This wasn't all right, we invited 18 and we want you to come, but because remember our commitment to excellence, it's not a contract. It says that you will come if the invitation is extended. And so there's not any teeth to it, right? There's not any enforcement procedure. Now, governance is taking up the revised attendance policy today that does add more teeth, if you will, to chronic absenteeism. So next year, any student that is on the chronic absenteeism list has to attend Summer Pride. They have to attend. It's on the chronic absenteeism for any reason. This year, the other big win was we got at least a piece of the chronic absenteeism list, those children to participate, because that's in the current policy that if you are 19 or more medical absences, you have to go to Summer Pride. So we have a total of, I believe, 14 that are there because of medical absences. And this is medical absences that are not under homebound, medical homebound.
What's the length of that program?
For a 2nd through 5th grade child, it is 96 hours, 3 weeks. For a kinder through 1st grade child, it is 2 weeks. Now remember, and we're going into governance, but this is really an academic to just know, your numbers are going to be even more confined next year because 1st grade is now going to be subject to Read to Succeed next year with team. And so we were required to invite all 1st graders that didn't meet their cut score, but now, our 3 that didn't meet the score in 3rd grade that have to be retained, that will apply to those 1st graders next year. So I'm really proud that the 2 big wins that we were able to achieve this year, which is just being good fiscal stewards of our money. We're spending $60,000 on summer school. So making sure that we have children there is the first step, right? Getting 120 kids. How did I get 120? Our charter app says that we're going to invite the 20 children on each grade level that need it and can benefit from it the most. 1st and 3rd grade, those numbers are set for you by who is able to be invited. The other win was we have made a lot of room we've improved a lot in our attendance expectations because Ms. Chandler, governance is leveraging the power of innovation as a charter school tied to your attendance policy. And we're saying that it is to make up your seat time. We've got high flyers academically in summer school right now, so it was more of a make your seat time up. Those children get to 7th and 8th grade if they're in a high school credit course. Either we open up the building on Saturday and do credit recovery, right? Or does Liberty want to be that school? Or do we want to emphasize this at the lower grades, clean that up so that we're not having to.
Is that a full day program or is that just?
It is a full day.
It is full day.
Yeah, 8 to 3. 8 to 3. They get an enrichment, they get lunch, they get breakfast.
And targeted reading and math.
Targeted reading and math, a different kind of curriculum. They have to take math. That's our assessment that our district requires us to take. Ms. Davis?
Can I make a suggestion? Can I?
Yes.
I would say, if there's anything to correct or adjust, kindergarten, a bit overwhelming. A lot of moving babies in there, busy, hot. It was a significant difference from the other grade levels. The kindergarten class, they were busy, and for one person there. We might want to, and I don't think there's one person there all day by themselves, right?
Our kinder and first grade teachers do have a co-teacher, so we have 2 adults.
Okay. I don't think the co-teacher was in there at the time, but I was asking her, I said, is it like this all day? She said, yeah, from the time they get there to the time they leave, they're just busy.
Mm-hmm.
And even when they, have their rest time, they're still really busy.
Yeah.
So if we could do something about that, I don't know but it's not my expertise. I just observed that it was very, very busy.
Yeah. A solution could be that a teacher has just 10 scholars that are assigned to them in one room, and we break up the 20 into 2 groups. That's the reason why we have the co-teacher model at kinder and first, but they are in the same room.
That would probably help. I don't know, but again, that was just my observation. Kindergarten was that class had a lot of busy babies in there.
All right, thank you so much for that feedback. Madam Chair, moving it right along, we have just some rapid fire updates. I met with Mrs. Chandler, and of course in our one-on-one, Mrs. Knopf, we reviewed our policies and procedures manuals at that point that were related to academics. I can attest to the fact that where there needed to be an update, for example, Read to Succeed for first grade is now in our board manuals. It's in our student handbook. We cleaned up the best grading policies manual to remove the grade floor. You all had that at your last committee, and that'll be going forward for full approval this coming Monday meeting. Ms. Chandler, I'd love to defer to you. Anything that you want to note, or do you feel good about the manual updates?
I think you've done a really good job to cover all of the updates.
Team effort.
Comprehensive, and so we're going to start the new school year in a very strong position going forward, and I think that changes to the attendance policy too will help give us the leverage we need in terms of.
Shout out to Ms. Chandler. A great idea that she gave was any student that violates their attendance intervention plan over the course of a year, they start the next year off on an ASP. Well, you might ask, well, what is an ASP? Well, let's look at our beautiful brochure here. An ASP that Ms. Chandler had the idea, what are we doing to monitor those children the next year? It's just like we do an MTSS with academics, right? And MTSS is attendance success plan. So those parents, Ms. Chambers, will be leading that charge once this policy is passed to make sure that every student who violated an attendance intervention plan this year, or anybody that's on the chronic absenteeism list, gets an initial meeting in the beginning of the year.
That's great. And hopefully noting that they are, it's sort of a probationary thing to say, okay,
what can we do to help to make sure
to prevent this from occurring again this year, let's be proactive about it and solution-based.
Probably need to do some parent workshops on that at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, it's a good push.
So that they know the communication and the expectations up front.
Yep. And you know what? I'm going to turn that feedback around tonight because we have our last peace session tonight, which is for those who didn't make their peace session this year. Peace is our parents have to attend. The expectation is one peace session over the course of the year. Okay. And tonight is all about what's coming, what are new things for next year. It's a great opportunity to say, hey, this is a change. I love that idea. All right, keep us moving right along, and I can keep us on track, Madam Chair. You all have the organizational goals presentation. It was sent out. Shout out to Ms. Hanson for making sure our community reps also get it. But if anything you read in this, just take a look at the last 4 pages. All the schools that Charter School Growth Fund invest in, their highest performing charter schools, Liberty is in the 4th largest growth index, had the 4th highest growth levels. And so you can take a look at our lines going up, and we're above the 50th percentile. And then again, there's a graph here where they're tracking it from found in class, and where were you in 2021, and where are you now? We had a dip one year.
Yeah.
But every year since, and this is one thing I love about charter school growth fund is they'll give you data, they'll give you some comparison data because as a charter, you're out there in your own world. And so you don't know until the state report card comes out and then everybody is measured, but how are we doing against all the other charter schools that are out there? And so, if you look at fifth grade math, Charter School Growth Fund said, well, you probably want to find out what they do in fifth grade math this year because there was some amazing growth in fifth grade math.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you have in your board e-meeting packet, and Mrs. Knopf, I handed you a copy, and Dr. Huggins, I'll make sure you get this copy, just to keep the full board aware of the sports and new offerings. If you have not been informed, Mr. Thompson, our board chair, has set our sports offerings to be 6, and that's where we're starting small to do really well. And the challenge that Mr. Thompson issued to Mr. Butler, our Culture and Athletics Leader Fellow, who will be the Culture and Athletics Support Specialist next year, he is building the entire enrichment plan for all things athletics around those 6. So all of that is here in the calendar you have for you. You also have in your board e-meeting packet that will come to the full board next Monday, the goals for 26-27. And we had a conversation just a bit ago about, are we going to do the 60% still for inclusion? And so you have that full board goals and chart, because once that is board approved, that will then go to Dr. McDonald that'll be used to set driver goals. And so there are no changes. There's been some cleanup. For example, we're going to have 2 report card ratings next year. So we had to say not 1, 2. We have to update our student count, 1,061. You see that all the metrics that we're still tracking are still there. All right, FY27 budget, and this is where we'll kind of bring our conversation to a close. There is going to be a 3rd reading of FY27 budget. Executive is going to get a full report out of that in just the next hour. But we are projecting right now that we will be able to contribute around $400,000 to our reserve fund on next year's budget. That does have our philanthropic standalone goal in there. Of course, that will be a big responsibility of mine in transitioning to the foundation role. But the most exciting news is that we are going to meet the CSGF milestone, 60 days cash on hand, this year.
Wow, that's good.
And so shout out to you, Ms. Chandler, for always championing our message to those who are in positions to influence moments like this where, hey, our second biggest investor, they want to see us get to 60 days. That's even healthier than 30 days, which is the state requirement. And so we have our $200,000 coming from the state in the strategic compensation in next week's state revenue drop that will go towards that. And then, of course, our big USDE grant, the $1.752 million, that's in next year's budget. So there's nothing to be alarmed about in the 3rd reading of the FY27 budget, other than we still have to raise $1 million, and there are 13 new positions in that budget for growth. That's a big, and you're going to get a 1-pager on Monday of all the highlights of the budget. All right, you also have in your e-meeting packet the board and committee draft meeting schedule that will also be presented to the board Monday for their approval. And then I had an action set from finance this morning. We have not received our designation status for federal programs next year, so we don't know if we're going to be a Title I school. Would anticipate that we will be. Usually it is this week or next week that we receive our number 1 designation and number 2 our preliminary allocation. Once you get the preliminary allocation, it does require board approval that the board is in alignment with how that funds are supposed to be spent in accordance to the comprehensive needs assessment. So I owe Mrs. Hanson a 1-pager to make sure that it is in your board packet so that you can see. So if we don't get our allocation next week, we want to make sure that the board knows this is where the CNA said to prioritize the funds, which was in our academic intervention program. All right. We have all of our action steps completed from here. from before. We are fully on track with PATH. You have a new PATH. We're up to 42 PATH partners. We're waiting on a final yes from Honda. So Honda, if you're out there, come through for us. But Honda is so development challenged every teacher to meet their PATH partner before they went home from summer break. I'm telling y'all, PATH is going to be the next roadmap, if you will. I know I keep saying there's something bigger and better every year, but we're on to something with PATH. This is our technical high school right now, our early college and technical high school. This is it right here. So the big one this past year was to go year round. So now teachers are not coming back in the beginning of the year and wondering, well, are we still doing this PATH thing this year, this STEAM day? No, I already know who my partner is. Yeah. I know what the challenges they got to solve. I mean, there are partners that already have figured out their problem that they're solving, and Mr. Thompson is allowing all of the PATH partners, one PATH partner for each classroom, to come with their teacher to the chairman's drop-in reception, which is on July the 27th. All right, not bad, 4 minutes. Ms. Knopf, I can recap my action steps if you. Yes, the one major action step, aside from the feedback that Ms. Davis did share, is to get the one pager for the federal programs allocation alignment to Ms. Hanson. Ms. Douglas, I don't want to overlook any feedback that you have. You've been quiet. She may be stepped off to the side. That's right. I will check in with her, but that is my one action step, is the federal programs. And we have our board retreat on July the 13th. July 13th. Final board meeting Monday. Hope to see you there. We'll be at the.
And I'll be virtual Monday. But I'll be present.
All right. Join virtually.
Be at the beach.
Okay. Well, good thing is we are in a room with some very high performing technology. The top
Very tiny sound.
that camera will be, it'll zoom right on in, the person talking. That's right. Talk about your Madam Chair, I will turn that over to you.
Okay, are there any additional recommendations, reminders, or follow-up items for the committee before we adjourn? Okay. If any committee member has a request for a future agenda item, please contact our lobby prior to the next scheduled meeting. Thank everyone for your participation and continued commitment. No further business before the committee. This meeting is adjourned.
All right. Thank you so much, you too.
Thank you.
Oh, gosh. And this is